On my 28th birthday, my phone lit up with a text that made my stomach twist. Happy birthday. Party Popper love you. We're out celebrating Rachel's half birthday. Wish you were here. I stared at the screen, reading it again and again. Celebrating my sister's half birthday. With my parents. Using money they had borrowed from me because of so-called emergency. I was sitting alone in my tiny apartment, eating cereal for dinner because my paycheck didn't hit until tomorrow, while my family was out partying on my dime. That was the exact moment something inside me snapped. They didn't just owe me money. They owed me respect. And I decided, right then, that they were going to pay me back in both. If you've ever felt like the responsible one who everyone relies on but no one respects, this story is for you. Because I used to let my family walk all over me, drain my bank account, and then act like I should be grateful just to be included. But in the end, I turned the tables in a way that was legal, cold, and very, very satisfying. Before I tell you how I made them pay for every dollar and every disrespectful moment, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're listening from. Now, let me take you back to where this all started. My name is Alex. I'm 28 years old, and for most of my life, I've been the reliable one in my family. Not the favorite, not the golden child, just the dependable one. My parents have 2 kids, me and my little sister, Rachel. If you ask anyone in my family, they describe Rachel as the sunshine of the house, the social one, the baby. She's 25, pretty, outgoing, always posting selfies and outfit of the day videos online. And then there's me. I'm the one who remembers due dates, plans appointments, files taxes on time, and somehow became the unofficial tech support, emotional support, and financial support for everyone. Growing up, the difference between us was obvious. If Rachel forgot her homework, my mom would rush to school to drop it off. If I forgot mine, she'd say, "Well, you should have been more responsible. Learn from this." If Rachel broke something, it was, "She's just a kid. It happens." If I made a mistake, it was, "You're older. You should know better." Somewhere along the way, that pattern turned into something uglier. It turned into, "Alex will fix it. Alex will help. Ask Alex, they always say yes." And for a long time, I did. I always said yes. Because that's what you do for family, right? Or at least, that's what I kept telling myself. The money thing started small. I had just gotten my first real job after college. Nothing fancy, but it paid the rent, covered my bills, and left a little bit over every month. For the first time, I felt like I could breathe. Then one evening, my mom called. I remember exactly where I was, walking home from the bus stop, plastic grocery bag cutting into my hand. Her voice sounded tight. "Sweetie, do you have a minute?" Those words were always a bad sign. "We're in a bit of a situation," she continued. "Your dad's car needs repairs so he can get to work, and we're short this month. It's just a little bit. We'll pay you back as soon as we can." I didn't even think twice. I said yes. I transferred the money that night. She thanked me profusely, told me I was a lifesaver, and I hung up feeling good, useful, needed. The repayment never came. A month went by. Then 2. I told myself they must have forgotten or things were still tight. I didn't want to be that person who nags their parents about money. The second emergency came from Rachel. She called me crying. "Alex, I'm so screwed. My rent is due, and my roommate bailed, and my manager cut my hours. I'm going to get kicked out." My stomach twisted. "How much do you need?" She named an amount that made my brain do quick math. It wasn't small, but I could do it if I cut back and skipped a few things for myself. "I'll pay you back next paycheck," she said. "I swear." "Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love you." Spoiler. She did not pay me back next paycheck. Instead, a couple weeks later, I watch her Instagram story of her at brunch with friends, glasses of mimosas clinking, captioned, "Treat yourself. You deserve it." I stare at that video, my thumb hovering over the screen, feeling a strange mix of annoyance and guilt. Why did I feel guilty? I was the one who helped. I was the one who was now eating instant noodles for lunch. But I swallowed it. Maybe she needed a break. Maybe she was stressed. I kept making excuses for her. For them. For everyone but myself. Over the next couple of years, the pattern got worse. "Can you spot us some cash until Friday? The credit card bill is a bit high this month. Can you help? I'm between jobs. and my unemployment hasn't kicked in yet. Always temporary. Always an emergency. Always. We'll pay you back as soon as we can. Except soon never came. My bank app turned into a diary of my family's bad decisions. Transfers labeled mom gas, Rachel rent, utilities help, car payment, doctor bill. Just until payday. I kept telling myself it balanced out in other ways. They love me, right? They showed up to holidays. They asked how work was. They were family. But in the back of my mind, another narrative was forming. One where I was not loved. Exactly. I was convenient. Useful. A resource. Like a credit card with no limit and no interest. An ATM that said yes every time and never printed a receipt. My 28th birthday fell on a gray, slow morning. I remember waking up before my alarm, light leaking around the curtains. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. There were no balloons. No calls from the next room. No smell of pancakes. Just my phone buzzing on the nightstand. I reached for it, half expecting a flood of texts. There were 3. One was an automated email from my bank. One was a discount from some app. And one was from Rachel. Happy birthday. Party popper love you. We're out celebrating my half-birthday, LOL. You know, Mom, she insists faced with tears of joy, wish you were here. For a moment, my brain just stalled on the words. My half-birthday. I stared at the photo attached. There they were, my mom, my dad, and my sister sitting in a restaurant I recognized as not cheap. Big plates. Fancy drinks. Rachel leaning in toward my dad, lips puckered in that fake kiss pose people do for photos. And then, like ice water slowly being poured over my head, the realization hit me. 2 weeks earlier, my parents had called me. We're really tight this month, my mom had said. Your dad's hours got cut, just until we catch up. Could you help us with the credit card bill? We're behind, and I'm scared of fees. I had moved money out of my savings. Not my fun money. Not my extra. My savings. And there they were, smiling at a restaurant on my birthday, using the card I had helped them pay off to celebrate my sister's half-birthday. My chest felt hot, then cold. My hand started to shake as I zoomed in on the picture like maybe I was misunderstanding something. I wasn't. I checked my calendar just to make sure I wasn't losing it. No, I was right. Today was my actual birthday. I got up, walked into the kitchen, opened the fridge, and stared at the shelves. Half a carton of milk, some eggs, a couple of leftovers. No cake. No takeout. No, we're dropping by tonight. Be ready. I leaned my forehead against the fridge door and laughed once, quietly. It wasn't a happy sound. That was when the anger finally stopped being a small, guilty knot and turned into something sharp and clear. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about where I ranked in my own family. I was the wallet, the backup plan, the safety net. Rachel was the priority, and I realized they weren't ever going to change on their own. I had to make them. An hour later, I called my mom. She answered on the second ring, restaurant noise in the background. Hey, sweetie. Happy birthday, she said, like she hadn't just punched me in the chest with that text earlier. Mom, can we talk? I said. My voice sounded calmer than I felt. Of course, she chirped. We're just finishing up lunch. Isn't this place nice? Rachel picked it. What's up? It's about the money, I said. There was a tiny pause. Then what about it? The money you borrowed from me. I clarified. The credit card, the car, the utilities, everything. You never pay me back. You always say you will, but you don't. And now you're using it to celebrate Rachel's half-birthday. On my actual birthday. For a moment, there was only the muffled clatter of plates and distant chatter. Then her voice hardened just a little. Alex, what's your problem? We're family. We help each other. This is temporary. No, I said. I help you. You don't help me. That's not the same thing. She sighed. I could picture the exact face she was making. Eyes rolling upward, lips pressed tight, the one she used whenever she thought I was being dramatic. You're being unfair, she said. We're just trying to get by. You know how things have been. We'll pay you back when we can. That's what you've been saying for years, I replied. And you never do. There was another pause. Then she dropped the line she always used when she wanted me to feel guilty. Wow, she said, after everything we've done for you, you're really going to throw money in our faces on your birthday? I felt a tightness in my throat. Everything we've done for you. As if feeding a child and putting a roof over their head isn't the bare minimum. as if they hadn't also done everything for Rachel and more, and never expected her to carry their debt. I swallowed. You know what, Mom? I said quietly. We'll talk later. Properly. I hung up before she could answer. My hands were shaking again, but this time it wasn't from fear. It was from resolve. There are moments in your life when you realize you're about to cross a line, not into something evil, just into something different, stronger, less easy to push around. That afternoon, I texted the one person I knew would understand. Hey, I need your help with something, I typed. Meet me at the coffee shop at 2 p.m. It's time we take care of my family. Mike replied almost instantly. I'm in. Do I need to bring a shovel or a spreadsheet? I snorted. Spreadsheet. For now. Mike and I have been friends since college. Where I was the quiet, reliable type, he was the one who enjoyed rules, contracts, and watching shady people fall into their own traps. It made him an excellent accountant and an even better friend. While I walked into the coffee shop, he was already there, laptop open, 2 drinks on the table. Birthday boy, he said, standing up to hug me. You look like you're about to either cry or burn something down. What happened? I sat, took a sip of my drink, and told him everything. About the first emergency. About the rent for Rachel. About the credit card, the car, the endless just until Friday. About the Instagram brunch. About the half-birthday lunch. About my mother's family speech. With every new detail, his expression changed. Surprise, annoyance, disbelief, then something colder. Hold up, he said at one point, hands raised. So they're out celebrating your sister's half-birthday, using money they begged off you on your birthday, while you're here eating cereal? I nodded. He leaned back in his chair and let out a low whistle. Your family is unbelievable, he said, and not in the good way. I laughed bitterly. Tell me something I don't know. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he asked, okay, what do you want exactly? It was a simple question, but it landed heavy. What did I want? For them to pay me back. Yes, obviously. But more than that, to stop seeing me as an endless supply of money. To respect me. To treat me like a person, not a wallet with a beating heart. I want my money back, I said slowly. Every last cent. And I want them to understand they don't get to use me like this anymore. No more guilt trips. No more you owe us. I want them to feel, even for a second, what it's like to be scared about money instead of just handing the fear to me. Mike's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. And are you willing to make them uncomfortable to get that? I thought about my mom's voice, casually dismissing my feelings. My dad acting like money talk was stressful whenever I try to bring it up. Rachel's brunch photos. Yes, I said. I'm done being the nice one who keeps quiet. Mike grinned. Good. Then here's what we're going to do. The first step, according to Mike, was simple. Gather evidence. If this was anyone else, he said, fingers flying across his keyboard, you'd never lend them money without a record. You've treated them like they're above accountability. Time to change that. He made a list on his laptop. Bank transfers, he muttered. Cash withdrawals. Anytime you paid something for them, note it. Dates, amounts, reasons. Text screenshots where they mention paying you back. Everything. It turned out I had more than I thought. We spent hours combing through my bank app, scrolling back years. Every suspicious transfer I tagged and wrote down in a spreadsheet. I opened old chats, searching for words like borrow, loan, rent, bill, help. Every, just until we get paid. Every will pay you back next month. Every, you're a lifesaver. We'll make it up to you. Mike organized it all. Dates, amounts, who asked, what for, what was promised. Soon there was a total at the bottom of the spreadsheet. A number that made my stomach twist. It was not small. With interest rates and late fees they themselves would have paid if it had gone to a bank instead of me, the number would have been much higher. You realize, Mike said, leaning back and looking at me over his screen, that you've basically been their interest-free line of credit for years. Yeah, I said quietly. I realize that now. He nodded slowly. Good. Keep that feeling. It'll stop you from backing down later. Backing down from what? I asked. He smiled, but there was no humor in it. From the part where we stop asking nicely. Over the next few days, we refined the plan. Step 1. No more money, ever, without documentation. Step 2. Confront them with the evidence. Calmly but firmly. Step 3. Present them with a written repayment plan and get them to sign it. Step 4. Make it clear that if they defaulted, I would treat it like I'd treat any other debtor. Legal channels. Collections. The works. Isn't that a bit harsh? I asked at one point, staring at the draft of the letter Mike had helped me write. Is it harsher than eating cereal on your birthday while they toast your sister with your money? He asked back. I shut up. We printed out the spreadsheet. Mike formatted it like a formal document. Headings, totals, even a simple interest calculation if we wanted to argue that in front of a judge. We also drafted a repayment agreement. It wasn't insane. It didn't demand everything immediately. It gave them time, a schedule, room. It has to be realistic, Mike said. We're not trying to ruin them. We're trying to make them take responsibility. That line stuck with me. I wasn't trying to ruin them. I wasn't out for some cartoonish revenge where I burned everything down. I just wanted justice, balance, a sense that my kindness hadn't been a mistake. The night before I planned to meet them, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined different scenarios. My mom crying and calling me heartless. My dad going quiet and disappointed. That look that says, "You've changed." Rachel rolling her eyes and calling me dramatic. Part of me, the old me, wanted to cancel the whole thing and never bring it up again. Just quietly distance myself. Stop responding to money requests. Fade into my own life. That would have been easier. But then I'd see that birthday text again. That stupid half-birthday LOL. And the photo of them all together. Without me. And any softness hardened again. By morning, the decision was carved in stone. I texted the family group chat around noon on a Sunday. Can everyone come to my place tonight? I need to talk to you all. It's important. Rachel replied first. Is everything okay? Mom followed. Is something wrong, sweetie? Dad just sent a thumbs up. Everything's fine. I wrote back. I just need to discuss something serious. 7 p.m. They all agreed. For the rest of the day, I cleaned my tiny apartment like royalty was coming. It was ridiculous, but I needed something to do with the nervous energy. I wiped down surfaces that no one would even notice, straightened cushions, stacked coasters. At 6:45 p.m., Mike came over. You sure you want me here? He asked, standing in the doorway with his leather bag. I don't have to be in the room. I could just wait downstairs in case you need backup. No, I said quickly. I want you here. You don't have to say anything. Just be there. I needed a witness. Someone who knew the whole story. Someone who believed me. At 7:02, there was a knock on the door. My parents walked in first, my mom holding a Tupperware container. We brought cake, she announced brightly. We didn't get to celebrate your birthday properly. I stared at the store-bought cake in her hands. It was the cheapest kind, the one with that plasticky frosting. A week ago, I would have taken it, laughed, and pretended to be happy. Tonight, I just stepped aside and let them in. Rachel came in behind them, full of her usual bounce, then froze when she saw Mike. Oh, she said. I didn't know you'd be here. Hi, Rachel, he said evenly. Good to see you. Something in his tone made her eyebrows knit for a second, but she shrugged it off and walked over to the couch. We all sat. My parents on the couch. Rachel in the chair by the window. Mike in the extra dining chair. Me standing at first because sitting felt too small. My heart was slamming against my ribs, but on the outside, I kept my face neutral. What's going on? My dad finally asked. You sounded serious in your text. I took a breath. I've been doing some thinking. I started. My voice came out steady, and I've realized that I've been taken advantage of for far too long. My mom's smile faltered. Alex, what? I held up a hand, surprising even myself. Please, let me finish. The room went quiet. You've all borrowed money from me, I continued, looking each of them in the eye. Multiple times. For years. You've promised to pay me back, and you haven't. You called it temporary, an emergency, just this once. But it's become a pattern, and that pattern has to end. Rachel scoffed lightly. Oh my God, is this about the rent from like forever ago? I told you my job was. This isn't about one time I cut in. This is about every time. I reached for the folder on the table and pulled out the printed spreadsheet. I have all the evidence right here, I said. Every transfer, every loan, I'll pay you back next month. Dates, amounts, screenshots of texts. My dad frowned. You kept track of all that? Yes, I said. because no one else was taking it seriously. I laid the sheet on a coffee table and slid it toward them. They leaned in. My mom's eyes scrolled down the page, widening. My dad's lips tightened. Rachel made a small sound in her throat. "What is this total?" my dad asked finally, his voice a little too light. "This can't all be right." "It is," Mike spoke up quietly. "We went through every record together. Cross-checked it. It's accurate." My mom looked up sharply. "So this is like what? Some kind of intervention?" she asked. "You bring your friend here to make us feel like criminals." "No," I said. "I brought him because I needed support. Because every time I try to talk about this alone, I get guilt-tripped or brushed off. I'm done with that." My mom opened her mouth, closed it, then tried again. "Alex, we're your parents," she said, her voice trembling just enough to sound wounded. "We've always done our best. Sometimes we get behind. Families help each other. That's what love is. We never asked you to keep score like this." I let her words hang there for a moment, then said quietly, "You did ask me to help. Over and over. And over. You just didn't expect there to be any accountability." Rachel suddenly snapped. "This is really messed up, you know that? Sitting here, waving papers in our faces like you're some debt collector? You sound like a stranger, not family." I looked at her. "You're right," I said. "It does sound like a debt collector, because that's what I'm going to be if this doesn't get handled." The room went still. My dad blinked. "What do you mean?" I took a slow breath. "I'm giving you a choice," I said. "Either we treat this like adults, acknowledge the debt, and work out a repayment plan, or I treat it like any other unpaid debt and take it to the authorities. Small claims court, collections, whatever it takes." My mom stared at me like she'd never seen me before. "You wouldn't," she whispered. "Try me," I replied. There's a specific moment when people realize you're not bluffing. You can feel it in the air. Up until that point, they're testing you, pushing, seeing how far they can go. But then something in your voice, your eyes, your posture tells them, "Oh, this is real." That moment happened right then. My mother's face paled. My dad's fingers tightened around the printed sheet. Rachel crossed her arms, but her eyes flicked nervously between us. "What are you hoping to get from this?" my dad asked slowly. "You want it all tomorrow?" "Because we can't." "I'm not asking for it all tomorrow," I interrupted. "I'm not unreasonable. But I'm asking for commitment. A written agreement. A plan. And a promise that there will be no more, 'Can you help?' Just this once until the existing debt is paid." Rachel snorted. "So, we just, struggle while you sit on your high horse? You have a good job, Alex. You can afford it." Heat flared in my chest. "You mean I can afford to go without, so you don't have to?" I shot back. "Because that's what's been happening. I'm not rich. I don't have endless money. I have enough because I live carefully. You know what I didn't do while you were at brunch and half-birthday lunches? I didn't order takeout. I didn't buy new clothes. I didn't take trips. I said no to myself so I could say yes to you." Silence. My voice softened, but I kept it steady. "I'm not doing that anymore." My dad cleared his throat. "How much are we talking about?" "Really?" he asked, pointing at the total. The number might not have been a fortune, but it was big enough to make anyone sweat. Mike spoke again, calm as ever. "Look," he said, "this doesn't have to be hostile. I helped Alex set up a repayment schedule that's manageable. It spreads the total over time, so no one gets crushed at once. Interest rate is incredibly low, by the way, especially compared to credit cards. This is generous, not predatory." He pulled out the second document, the repayment plan. "There's even some flexibility built in," he added. "If someone can't make a full payment one month, there are options. But there's also accountability. Miss too many payments, and the agreement states clearly what happens next." "And what happens next?" my mom whispered. "Legal action," Mike said bluntly. "Just like if you didn't pay a bank." My mom's eyes filled with tears. "I can't believe this," she said. "On top of everything we're dealing with, you're threatening us?" I felt a tiny stab of guilt. Then I remembered that birthday text. That brunch. The bill I'd paid, so they could have the freedom to ignore my existence. "I'm not threatening you," I said quietly. "I'm setting boundaries. You taught me that actions have consequences. I'm just applying that lesson." My dad exhaled, long and slow, like a balloon losing air. "What do you want us to do?" he finally asked. There it was, the question I had been waiting for. "I want you to pay me back," I said. Every last penny. And I want in writing. Today, what followed wasn't pretty. There were raised voices, accusations, old history dragged into the room like dusty furniture. You never complained before. We did the best we could as parents. You think Rachel never helped you? Money has turned you cold. At one point, my mom asked if this was Mike's idea, like I was some puppet controlled by a cold-hearted outsider. Mike calmly responded, no. Alex came to me already fed up. I just helped put their feelings into a structure you'd have to take seriously. In the end, though, it all came down to math and reality. The numbers didn't lie. The printouts were right there. Eventually, the anger gave way to something else, resignation. My dad rubbed his face and said quietly, okay, we'll do it. We'll pay it back. But the schedule, it needs to be realistic. I nodded. That's why we made it with small monthly amounts. If you want, we can adjust a few details, but the total doesn't change. It all gets repaid, one way or another. Rachel sat back, arms still crossed. So what? I'm supposed to pay too? She asked. This list has my stuff on it, but it also has yours, Mom and Dad. Yes, I said. Everyone is responsible for what they personally borrowed. It's broken down by person. You don't have to pay their share, and they don't have to pay yours. She blinked. Wait, really? Mike nodded. Very clearly separated. You'll see. Rachel took the papers and started flipping through them, following the color codes and labels Mike had added. Her eyes widened. Holy, she muttered. I didn't realize it was this much. That's the point, I said softly. None of you realized. Because it hasn't hurt you. It's only hurt me. For the first time that night, Rachel looked actually ashamed. My mom still hovered on the edge of tears, but she was quieter now, reading the figures, the dates, seeing in black and white what it felt to her like small, scattered favors. Small, scattered favors that had turned into a mountain on my back. Finally, one by one, they signed. My dad first, jaw clenched but hands steady. Then my mom, hands trembling as she wrote her name. Then Rachel, biting her lip, avoiding my eyes. Each signature felt like something snapping into place inside me. Not victory. Not exactly. More like balance. Like the world had been tilted for years and was finally coming level. The agreement was simple, but not optional. Each of them had a set amount to pay every month. Automatic transfers to my account. If they needed to change the date or adjust slightly, they had to tell me in advance. No more surprise. We can't pay anything at all. Sorry. While they posted vacations online. If they missed 2 payments in a row with no valid reason, the agreement stated that I would proceed with legal steps. No more warnings. The next morning, I forwarded them all a scanned copy of the signed document. No one responded. A week later, the first payments hit my account. I stared at the notifications for a long time. Part of me was braced for some dramatic follow-up. A long, emotional text, a guilt-soaked call, a passive-aggressive post on social media. But it didn't come. Life went on. My parents called less often, and when they did, money was noticeably absent from their conversations. They asked about my job, my health, the weather. It felt stiff at first, like we were strangers forced to talk, but gradually, it leveled into something more real. Rachel stopped calling me rich as a joke. She stopped sending me, "You'll help, right?" messages when she signed up for something she couldn't afford. She started asking, "Should I do this?" and actually listening to my answer when I said, "No, I don't think that's smart." Every month, the payments kept coming. Sometimes late, sometimes partial, followed by a text explaining, "We're short, but we'll make up the rest with the next one." But the difference now was that there was a framework. I wasn't chasing them. I wasn't begging. I wasn't their emotional hostage. They were, for the first time, treating me like a creditor, a person whose money and effort had value. And slowly, something unexpected happened. I stopped being angry. Not overnight. The hurt of that birthday text still stung when I thought about it too long. But the sharp rage faded into something quieter, because I was no longer powerless. They couldn't guilt me into giving more, because I had something solid to point to. When we're caught up on what you already owe, we can talk, I would say. Until then, I can't. Sometimes there would be a sigh, sometimes silence, but there would also be acceptance. They knew I meant it. People hear the word revenge and think of dramatic scenes. Public humiliation, screaming matches, people losing everything. But the most satisfying revenge I've ever experienced didn't look like that. It looked like my dad, sitting at the kitchen table of their house, telling my sister, "We can't afford that brunch place right now. We have obligations to fulfill." It looked like my mom texting me one day, "We've decided to cancel the cable package. It's too expensive, and we'd rather pay down what we owe you faster." It looked like Rachel saying, "I took an extra shift this week, so I wouldn't fall behind." It looked like them finally learning to live within their means instead of using me to stretch reality. The money coming back into my account was nice. I won't pretend it wasn't. Watching that number on the spreadsheet shrink month by month felt like breathing easier. But the real revenge was watching them have to deal with their own choices. To budget, to say no to themselves, to feel the weight of responsibility I had carried alone for years. There was one moment, in particular, that crystallized it for me. A few months after the agreement, Rachel invited me to coffee. Just the two of us. I almost said no, but curiosity got the better of me. We sat outside at a small cafe. She fidgeted with the edge of her napkin for a while, then blurted out, "I'm mad at you." I raised an eyebrow. "Okay, but I also get it," she added quickly before I could respond. "And that's what makes me more mad. At myself." I stayed quiet. She exhaled. "I didn't realize how often I just expected you to fix things," she admitted. "I'd screw up, and instead of panicking, I'd think, well, if it gets really bad, Alex will help. I never even asked if that was fair. I just assumed you'd be there. That's kind of the definition of taking someone for granted," I said gently. She winced. "Yeah, I know. The thing is, when I had to actually sit down and look at how much I owed you, it was like a slap in the face. I kept thinking, when did it get that bad? But the truth is, it didn't just happen. I did that. On purpose. Repeatedly." I watched her for a moment. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because," she said, staring at the table, "you were right. You're not an ATM. And I'm sorry it took paperwork and threats of court for me to see that." I felt something loosen in my chest. "Thank you," I said quietly. "That means a lot." She nodded. "Doesn't mean I'm happy about the monthly payments," she added, a wry smile twitching at the corner of her mouth. "But I guess now I know how it felt when you were making sacrifices, so I didn't have to." We sat in silence for a moment, listening to the clatter of cups and low hum of conversation around us. Then she said something I truly didn't expect. "You know," she said, "Mom hates that contract. She thinks it's cold." "Does she?" I asked. "Yeah. But Dad told her that if it wasn't there, they'd probably still be asking you for help and pretending everything was fine. He said, the only reason we're learning anything now is because Alex forced us to." I blinked. My dad had said that. That night, I went home and looked at the copy of the agreement I kept in my desk drawer. The paper had started as my weapon, my revenge, my way of proving that I wasn't just overreacting. Now it looked like something else. It looked like the thing that finally made us grow up as a family. In the end, I didn't blow up their lives. I didn't expose them online or cut them off completely. I did something much colder and in some ways much harder. I made them look in the mirror. I put a price tag on every time they said, "We'll pay you back," and didn't. And I stopped accepting we're family as an excuse for disrespect. The money they're repaying me is great. But the real victory is this. I'm no longer the family's walking, talking safety net. I'm a person with boundaries. And now, they know it too. If this story hit a little too close to home, if you've ever felt like the responsible one who everyone turns to but no one truly respects, you're not alone. Tell me in the comments. Have you ever had to set a hard boundary with your own family? What would your revenge look like? If this story gave you chills, or maybe a bit of courage, make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories like this, and share this video with someone who needs to hear that it's okay to stop being the family ATM. Because sometimes the most satisfying revenge isn't screaming or slamming doors. Sometimes it's simply saying, "No, not anymore," and meaning it.